First thing you need to do before you do any power work in any apartment is use a lockout tagout. When you're finished doing all your work, make sure you fill out the lockout tagout form for that apartment with the date and what you did to it, so if OSHA does come on your property, you're within their standards.
Thermostat, and today we're going to learn how to wire a single pole thermostat and convert it to a double pole thermostat. So our power is currently turned off. So now okay, back again. So before I touch any wires, even though I know the breaker turned off, I always come back and make it a habit of probing my wires to make sure that nothing is on. So this wire here is my line wire coming in, and here's its other leg, making it 240 volts. So what does this wire set do, and this set of wires do? Well, one of these is going over to the baseboard heater, and that's what we need to establish. And we're going to do that with an ohms meter. You put this on audio, so it says OL, and it has a little signal at the top that kind of looks like a Wi-Fi signal, but it's not. Always test that to make sure you can hear the audio tone. So what we're going to do is we're going to probe each one of these wires together as pairs, and the one that rings is the one that goes to the baseboard heater. Maybe we'll get lucky and this one will ring. It didn't. You hear that ring? So this wire here that I'm touching right now, that goes to that baseboard heater. Now you're saying, how do you know that? Well, the reason why I know that is because in a baseboard heater, the way it's wired, it makes a complete loop. So the circuit is complete. That's what makes the power, when the thermostat tells it to come on, that complete loop heats up both legs, and we have heat. So this wire, this set of wires here, this set of wires here doesn't ring. So what does this wire do? This one just says OL. It means open loop. It doesn't go anywhere? Yeah, it does. This one over here rings. This is my heater. This is the other line wire that's daisy chained into the room next door. So when I wire up my new thermostat, which is going to be a double pole thermostat, these two wires here are going to mate together. Along with these two wires, they're going to mate together. So when I turn the breaker on, both wires carry power into the junction box, but the other set of wires, this set here, is carrying it into the room next door. These two wires here are going to be put on the load wire on the thermostat. These carry the heat or the power over to the baseboard heater. Okay? Let me grab my thermostat and let's wire this up. Okay, here we have a double pole thermostat. Double pole, 4 wires. So what do each set of wires do? The red wires on this particular one are all the line wires. They're the ones that carry the power into the box, which that's what this set here is. The black wires are the load wires. The load wires carry the power over to the baseboard heater. Remember when I was talking about these two here have to be married together because this set here carries power into the junction box next door, and these here are the line wires coming in. Whenever you connect 2 or more wires together, you need to twist these together so you get full 360 degrees contact between each wire. Because if you just put 2 wires side by side with the thermostat, and then you drop in one of these wires into it, you don't really get that much contact. All you do is have 3 wires that are touching each other and a spring that wraps around them. It's best that you twist the 2 solid core wires together, pull this off, strip that down to about there, twist these strands all together and then put them in here once these are twisted. And I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So now what we're going to do is we're going to join the two wires, this one here being the actual hot wire and this one here being a so-called traveler wire to the next room. What we're going to do is we're going to line these two up with a pair of lineman's pliers, and we're going to twist the two cables together so we can get the most amount of contact possible. And this is all you have to do, is just twist them together. When they get out to this point here, the tips of your lineman's pliers will never have any knurling or grooves cut on them, so you can just grab them and twist gently and roll the wires around just like that. Anything that's left over, you want to just take and nibble the tips off so they don't stick out the end of your wire cap. Okay? So when you get done, it should just look something like that. So now we're going to do the other set. And because this one's already been in a cap, you need to straighten it out to get your best chance of getting your wires to parallel well together when you twist them up. Okay, so you just grab your lineman's pliers, reach down, twist them around. There you go, we're all the way locked down to the insulation. Swirl them around like this till they lock around. And we're going to strip these wires back a little bit just to establish a little bit more surface for me to make contact with these wires. When you're stripping wires, the best way to do it is find the gauge that's in there, and this happens to be a 12 gauge bundle. Take your wires and hold it in your strippers, take your thumb and just slide the wire off, or the insulation off. I got a waste bucket at the bottom, I drop it right into it, and then what you do is you want to take your strand wire and twist them together as one strand. The reason why you do this is because when you bundle them up inside of here, it doesn't turn into a big bird's nest underneath your wire cap and then your wire falls off. We'll do the same thing to this one over here. Just take and put it in the proper gauge, and then all you do is just take your thumb, hang on to the wire, and push it off. It's really simple, and it's really probably one of the most easiest ways and safest ways to strip a wire. And then again, you just take your strands, squeeze them snugly when you're spinning them, and now they turn into one solid strand. You can see how that looks better than having wires that are frayed and coming all apart. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to stick these in the wire nut. And it doesn't matter, it's going to be power to red. If you look on these thermostats, and this one's really hard to kind of see on the camera, it'll say right here, the black wire, this is all load, and on this side over here, it's saying L1 and L2, which means line wire, which line in electrical terms means it's the wire coming from the power box or directly from the street, depends on each situation. Wire caps are made for so many gauges of wire. This particular wire cap here will hold 3 10 gauge wires. This particular wire here isn't 10 gauge, it's 12. And when you put them on, you want to really twist these things down until you can see the wire starting to twist around the insulated solid core wires. And then they do the same thing on the black. As soon as it starts twisting around, then you know that you got a really good snug purchase on this, and always tug the strand wire to make sure that it's stuck in your cap. The next thing I like to do is turn this over the direction it's going to be mounted on the wall, and I will push my wires in accordingly, so I'm not causing the wires to be all bound up. You can see how they just sit back inside there and they stay. You got to kind of mold your wires in. that. Let me zoom that in for you. You can see how those wires are just snugly tucked inside. So the next set we're going to do is the load wires. And the load wires on this particular thermostat, they always go on black. New insulators or wire caps. Put them on, spin them down, and you'll see that wire starting to twist around. There it goes. Give it a good tug. Make sure that everything is on there and is going to stay on there, because you do not want to tuck it inside and turn the power on and find out that it touched one of the ground wires or an opposing wire, because it'll ruin your day. Last set goes on. Same way the first one did. Turn it until it starts to twist the wire around the solid core. Give it a good tug, you know you're in. Tuck your wires in. Now here's something that an electrician taught me. You got one set of wire cap going up. This one here had to be folded down. I don't even see where it went. Oh, there it is down here. So what you're going to do is you're going to start up here. This one's going to need a little finessing. Make yourself as much room as you possibly can. It's tucked in along the side. Take this wire here, because this cap is down, fold it up so it sits inside this void that's up here. What you're trying to do is make enough room that this is going to stick inside and not jump off the wall. I'm not smashing the wires with this. My screw's already starting to stick in the screw slot. So that's basically that. And you can see this thing is just going to sit on there. I like using a square bit. Most of the screws that you find on electrical are designed for a square bit. Put that on. Put the cover on. Turn the thermostat all the way on, off. See, here's an off on a double pole. There's no off. There's no off on a single pole. It's very obvious when you see them sitting side by side, off 50 degrees. These aren't allowed in multifamily. Double pole thermostats are. One, test it to make sure that the audio portion of it works. And it does. You can also see when I click on it, the numbers change. They should balance all the way out to zeros all the way across. But what we're listing for is the audio portion of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to probe each pair of wires until we find the wire that sings, okay? Or the audio tone. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to touch this setup here. And no noise. It's an open loop. But where's these wires coming from? Well, I'll explain that in a second. When I touch these two, we have an audio sound that tells me that these two here are going over to the baseboard heater wall. So in my world, tell me that these are going to go on the black load wires. So that's what we're going to connect first. Twist the strand wire together like I said. Twist this around until it starts to wrap around the solid core wire. There, it's starting to twist around. It's all the way twisted. Give them a good tug. Each wire is securely locked down, so you don't have to worry about shorting or any heat getting underneath the cap because of loose connection. Wires that are loose under the wire cap will actually melt the wire cap because of the heat that's generating from the arc going back and forth to the wire, either being the line wire like this one is, or to the load wire going out to the appliance that's running the 240 volts. Twist it around, give it a good tug. Line up the wires so they're the same height, strand at core or solid core, put your wire nut on, twist it until it wraps around the solid core wire. There it's twisting. Give it a good tug. So we have good contact all the time. That's very important. Now we need to touch these wires back down inside. Turn your thermostat over. Push the wires in one at a time. Getting as much possible room inside that junction box because they are small. This is just like a regular outlet or a light switch junction box. Feed them in there. Be careful not to gouge your ground wire, because that will ruin your day. You'll end up having to do a bunch of work that you never intended on. Like get the paintbrush out, because this is going to turn all black. One up, one down. Stick them in there. You can see how this box is snug, but this little part of the thermostat is going to sit inside of there really easy without having to have any pressure on the box. It's going to sit there. If it's sprung out, it's because the wires are pushing on the back side of your thermostat, which crushes it, which will short it out when you turn on the power.